I want to take you through some tips pertaining the question. They will be able to ask, to what extent did Marie Antoinette's character contribute to the outbreak of the 1789 French Revolution? Marie Antoinette, remember, was the wife of the king in Austria by origin. They can as well even say how far did the General State meeting? Remember, in advanced, we have what we call the two-sided question, the three-sided question, and the one-sided question. Students told me, Master, we don't have the three-sided question. Who told you? Can I take you through the three-sided question? Examine the causes and the effects. The causes you must give. The effects or the impact, positive and negative. Those are the three-sided question. There is a situation where they will say the 1789 French Revolution was inevitable. Discuss. Not all numbers that ends with discuss at the end are two-sided. Numbers inevitable, no factor is blamed, one-sided. For instance, that question, the 1789 French Revolution was inevitable. Discuss. It is a one-sided question. It does not require a standpoint. You only are supposed to identify or to first give the introduction, then straight away go to the general causes of the French Revolution that made the outbreak become inevitable. Therefore, if such factors were given attention in your conclusion, maybe the revolution could have been avoidable. What does that one mean? There are two-sided question and one-sided question. But in case one factor amongst the factors that caused the outbreak of the French Revolution, one is singled out, for instance, the character of the king made the 1789 French Revolution inevitable. Discuss. Of course, you must give the introduction. You give the standpoint to a greater extent, depending on your views and your analysis. To a greater extent, the character contributed. You give, then after, you give the transition paragraph. However, beside the character, there are other factors to a smaller extent. A standpoint must be given where it is needed. Not all numbers that require a standpoint. Examine the causes of the French Revolution. No factor is blamed. You must give the general cause. And a standpoint must appear there after the introduction, depending. There is what we call the situation analysis. The situation analysis, you depend on the situation. You view the content. Then after viewing the content, you read the content exhaustively. Then you give a standpoint. Don't say to a larger extent, it was the character, you give 2 points because you read only 2. The examiner, by the way, sometimes the examiner tests your mind that to King Louis, his character primarily, meaning that they are testing the candidate to see whether you've read enough. Then for you, you come and you tell us to a smaller extent or to the larger extent, you give 2 points because you had read, you read 2. Then, however, you give 8 and you say to a smaller extent. Are you looking at how you are confusing us? Can you be original? Can you state the point appropriately? Explain the point. Derive the point back to the question. We are here history approach. To what extent? How far? Discuss at the end in case the factor is blamed. You know, sometimes what confuses me, I don't understand the nature of the students nowadays we are dealing with. We said two-sided question. Someone answered the question in the angle of one-sided. You are losing marks. How will the examiner give you a lot of marks pertaining the question asked? You know, when we are looking at the question, phasement, sometimes I determine the standpoint depending on the situation. A student always sleeps in the class, looks to be sick. Sometimes she vomits. According to you, Don't you think that there is a possibility of the student having conceived? Don't you think? Could you tell me that there is a high possibility that the student is sober? How have you determined it that, great to a greater extent, there must be a problem? Why? You've depended on the situation of the student. That's why I normally say situation analysis. When you don't give the introduction, you are killing the moods of the examiner. The introduction must be in line with the question asked. The question is talking about what extent did the character of the king contribute to the outbreak of the French Revolution. You are starting, you are starting with the character of the king. Who told you? Look at the question, the end of the question. Our theme of discussion is the French Revolution. The character of the king could also be a subtopic there, pertaining the French Revolution. French Revolution, what is the French Revolution? What do you mean by the French Revolution? French Revolution is, mind the tense. You cannot say the French Revolution is as if it is still occurring. French Revolution was. Be so keen with the way you face your points with the tense. Otherwise, when you give the introduction that is a bit non-satisfactory, don't expect any mark from the examiner. After giving an introduction, what comes next? The standpoint depending on the situation. That is why I say the situation analysis. Then you give. Then after, can you conclude? Most especially when it comes to those two-sided questions. There was a student who asked me, Master, how do we conclude with a question with the inevitable? I told her, I will conclude like this. The outbreak of the French Revolution was inevitable. The 1789 French Revolution was inevitable. After giving all my factors that caused the aspect of the French Revolution, in conclusion, therefore, the outbreak of the French Revolution was a result of such and such and such. And if these factors were given attention, maybe the revolution couldn't have occurred. That is according to me. But you always tell us, as discussed above. It's very, very funny. Anyway, we are here to learn. Then with the approach, I think that is okay. So I expect you not to find any challenges with the approach. Then we shall exhaust well the French Revolution, what sparked off the revolution, like I've told you, the General State meeting, the sparked off the French Revolution, putting other factors constant. We shall also look at the England War, the influence of England being a constitutional monarchy, unlike France. We shall look at that. We shall also look at the influence of the philosophers. Those were the great thinkers and writers. They wrote books that contained literature, which literature was interpreted by those people who were very educated. And therefore they sensitized the masses, and after sensitizing the masses, they opened the eyes of the masses, and therefore it boosted their revolutionary feelings, making the 1789 French Revolution inevitable. Are you seeing how the topics are very interesting? It is very interesting. Then after, we shall look at other factors, that we've left out in our next move. Then after, we shall look at what we call the reign of terror. It was a revolution within a revolution. That is the reign of terror, the second phase of French Revolution. The reign of terror was very massive. That it started when? With the death of who and ended with the death of who? Don't outsport me. We are yet to look at that. Then after, we shall look at the revolutionary wars. France is at the war with the rest of European powers, all against France. And what sparked off that? Then after, we shall look at the directorial government in France, which could have given us the rise to Napoleon Bonaparte, because the weakness of the Digi are giving us the rise of Napoleon Bonaparte. The Digi over-relied on Napoleon, and they were very, very reluctant in doing their duties. Then they over-relied on Napoleon. Napoleon used that as an advantage to rise to power. Therefore, the weakness led to the rise of Napoleon. Then we shall look at other parts. That is what we call the ancient history. History is categorically given ancient and modern. Modern history, we shall look at those kind of the World War I, the Versailles Peace Treaty, the League of Nations, the fascism, Nazism, Weimar Republic, Cold War, NATO, the Second World War. Mention that few. Don't forget to subscribe. Kauma Medi. I think I'm done. Stay tuned. Subscribe. We shall get in touch. Don't forget that history is very, very interesting. Yeah, I wish you the best. Stay tuned. Have a lovely day.